You're listening to the E-commerce Impact Podcast, where we share the latest marketing strategies to grow your e-com store and have more impact. Hello and welcome back to the E-commerce Impact Podcast. We've got a super exciting guest today. So we've got Rosie Davies-Smith, who is the founder of PR Dispatch. Now, PR Dispatch is a platform to help product-based and e-commerce businesses to get PR and press coverage without the need of a PR agency. So Rosie is the absolute expert in this space. She helps over 350 brands to get amazing coverage in all sorts of press, from magazines to digital press to podcasts to roundups, magazines, you name it. She's got coverage for her clients, and she's got a ton of actionable advice for all of you on how you can get in front of the press so that they pay attention and so that they actually cover you and create articles that drive revenue and attention and social followers and get people paying attention to your brand. So strap in, get ready, and let's dive into loads of tactical and really strategic advice that you can implement right away in your e-commerce business. Hi, Rosie, and welcome along.
Hello, thanks for having me, Jessie.
No worries at all. So my first question to you is, why do you think PR is particularly important at the moment in the current economic climate with, challenges with consumer spending, consumer confidence? How does PR kind of fit in the mix given the current challenges?
Well, we know that consumers are going to be spending less, so it's really, really crucial that you are visible. And a great way to do this, aside from maybe organic marketing and paid, is by getting PR. So the first thing you should know is PR is never paid for. It sits in its own space in the earned media space. And yes, it increases visibility about your brand, it increases awareness, but it also boosts credibility and trust, which when consumers are spending less, you want to be constantly visible and you want to be creating that trust and credibility with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big point. I think people are more considered in their spending now, but they're wanting to choose to support brands that they feel a resonance with and that they feel maybe have more of a purpose as well beyond just a big brand making money. So I think certainly myself, I see that. I think one of the things that would be interesting with this in this economic climate too is, like, in the pandemic, we saw that people really wanted to buy from independent brands. And if you can push that angle through your PR and show the story behind your brand, people will be more likely to support you, I think. Yeah, so I totally agree with that. All right, so you work with brands at kind of every stage along the spectrum, from just getting started with PR to more established brands, multi-seven figure. What should brands be thinking about in terms of, and when they're first getting started with PR?
Cool. So imagery, if I could talk about imagery for an hour, I would. Imagery for PR is so important. So making sure you've got a range of images. If you're a product-based business, obviously kind of e-com cutouts are really, really important, because that's what the press use when they're compiling their stories. If you are the founder of a business and you want to put yourself at the forefront, having some really good headshots of you gets you far in the press. Some behind the scenes imagery as well. I call it behind the brand. So could be the process or your studio. It just adds some personality, and actually it opens doors to those features that create more of a brand storytelling angle, and they're the features that create that emotional connection with people that are reading about your. And then finally, some product lifestyle images as well. And probably talk about product lifestyle images a lot. It gets you far. It does, having some really nice product lifestyle images. So in terms of imagery, I would recommend, if you're just starting out and you're really heavily focused on product, you've got a number of products, really good, strong products that you need to push, then make sure you've got that product cutout imagery. If it's more about, maybe it's one product, but it's all about the process or the sustainability behind it, then get some behind the brand photos and some founder shots instead. It depends what you're going to push most kind of when you're starting out. And you're never too small to start. I think there's a misconception that, you need to be a big brand to be able to do PR, but really you should be doing PR from day one of your business and doing it consistently throughout your whole business. It's not something kind of you say, right, I'm going to get to year 3 and then I'll start doing some PR. No, it should be done continually. And your angles will change as your brand grows, as you hire a team, as maybe you raise investment. The stories that you're pitching in will change. But that's the beauty of PR. It kind of grows grows with you. So they would be my top tips for just starting out.
Yeah, amazing. And I've always wondered about this. So the product cutout images, so those are typically, just to get quite tactical, but I think people will appreciate this. They are studio shot images that are then like cut out in Photoshop, or you can probably use Canva these days. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So they are, studio images, and they can be, the press don't mind if they're on a white or a clear background. So they can be on a white black background and a JPEG, or they can be on a clear background and a PNG. You don't actually have to cut them out yourself. A lot of the press will do that for you. It's just the smaller magazines, the more independent magazines that maybe don't have a team to do it, but the majority of the time they're fine with it on a white background. I just make sure it's 300 DPI, so high res.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so product imagery is the big thing for getting started. What else? So you've got your images. What's the next step?
Starting to reach out. So I would kind of set the goal of pitching to 5 to 10 press a week. That's what our members do, and they do it in 60 minutes. So if you have access to a press database, it makes it really, really easy and quick. If you don't, you're going to have to spend longer hunting down press contacts. But 5 to 10 is a really good place to start. And I would say a mix across pitching a product and profile press. So there's interviews or the Q&A or how I built it or founder profile. All of those articles are really important as well as alongside the product. And it's the easiest thing actually to do. All you need to do is send them an email. So there's no kind of calling them up or anything like that. You're just literally sending them an email saying, hey, I know you compile this feature at this publication. This is what we do. This is what's cool about our product or our brand. I've attached a few low-res product suggestions. Let me know if anything works, and I'll send you some high-res imagery. And then it's the same for profile press as well. You know, you say, I noticed that you do a spotlight on female founders every month at the Telegraph. I'm a female founder. I've recently started this business. This is what might be interesting to your readers. And you'll see when you're kind of reaching out to the press, you'll start to see a theme in the features that they compile. So the same features are compiled every week or every month. So they're always looking for someone to profile that is female, that's overcome a hurdle, and that's the angle that they write about. Or they write a feature on, you know, a brand that helps with mental health. So you'll start to see the themes, and it's about picking out those bits of your story or your product that are relevant for that feature.
Amazing. So, and you mentioned having like a database that you subscribe to can help. I know your membership offers a service a bit like that. Do you want to talk us through how that works, what the different options are for people actually sourcing journalists to approach?
Yeah, I think I learned this quite easy, quite the hard way when I first started out. It's a really tenuous task trying to get hold of, firstly, figuring out who writes what article. Secondly, their contact details, and then keeping that information up to date as well. So actually, when I had my PR agency previously, we did always subscribe to a database to make it much easier. And now we do it for brands. If you kind of are at the stage where, you know, you just want to reach out to a few press, my advice would be is pick 3 to 5 publications and features within those publications and just focus on them. It will take you a kind of an hour or two to track down the right people and their email addresses and their formats. If you really can't figure out the format, get on the phones and ask the main desk, you know, I want to contact Sarah at the Telegraph. Can I please have her email address? Or what's the email format at the Telegraph, like first name dot surname at. So that's one way to do it. The other option is accessing a database like ours. The benefit of that is it does save you hours hunting down those press contacts, and it's always up to date. I think the presses, they move around all the time. They never stay in one job very, very long. So even people that kind of have an Excel sheet of, you know, press contacts that they borrowed from a friend a year ago, 90% of them will be outdated. So just make sure you're keeping on top. If you are kind of doing it yourself, you're keeping on top of it.
That's really interesting. Okay. And so, so you could source them yourself, but that would be a case of trying to like delve through the publications, contact, etc. So the other option is to go with a membership like yours, to have access to contacts. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about like what's been happening in the press industry in the last few years? Like what's the situation of the journalists that you're talking to? What are their kind of motivations, challenges? How can someone who's approaching them kind of best play the game given the current circumstance?
Oh, so much has changed. Where do I start? So firstly, there was as you said, a huge movement during COVID where obviously everyone wanted to support small businesses, independent brands. And actually what happened was lots of founders, businesses found the time to do PR. So it was really, really nice to see so much, firstly, time going into like people doing their PR and maybe had never done it before, and also from the flip side, the support from the press. That hasn't really gone away. I feel like, even now we're still in that mindset. If we're going to buy something, we really want to buy it from a small business or an independent brand where possible. So, and it's the same with press. If they can feature an independent over kind of a bigger retailer, they will. The problem is they want it made easy. So a few things you can do as a brand or a business is firstly have great imagery. That's going to make their life so much easier. So those cutout images that we talked about and all the other images, you can know how to work with them. So I think it's really important that both parties understand it's a two-way relationship. You're not selling to them. They don't have to feature you. You are putting pitch suggestions, or someone is putting pitch suggestions or product suggestions in their inbox if kind of it might be relevant for something that they're working on in the future. So we always say one pitch email, one really strong written pitch email, not too long, 2 or 3 paragraphs maximum, with some really good either product suggestions if it's product that is relevant for that publication. So, if you're selling something that's thousands of pounds, it's probably not going to be relevant for the stylist. So just doing that research before and knowing that, the stylist isn't going to feature something that's £1,000. So really well written and including keywords. So the way the press work is they will search their inbox. So if I am kind of an editor at the Telegraph and I am writing a feature on ethical jewelry brands, I will literally search my inbox for ethical jewelry, and up will pop everyone that has pitched that in. And then I will go back through all those suggestions and I will say, oh yeah, actually this is really good for what I'm doing at the moment. Can you please send me suggestions? And we get it every single day with our PR Dispatch members. They'll say, I just got a response to something I sent 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago even we've had. And it's so true. So it's just about using those keywords so that you are discoverable. You can send one pitch email and one follow-up. So the follow-up is about a week later, and it's just popping it to the top of their inbox. No phones. The press hate being phoned. Like, unless it's like a really newsworthy story. If like it's front page stuff, then obviously call them. But this is lifestyle press mostly that we're writing about. So don't follow up on the phones. I actually saw someone tweet yesterday saying, if a PR calls me to follow up on sending their press release, I'm not going to feature it no matter what it is. So, don't try and follow up on the phone. And then go back to them with something new. So depending on kind of what your angles are, what your product is, how quickly you're turning over products or collaborations, we recommend every 6 to 12 weeks. So every 6 to 12 weeks, go back to them with a different product suggestion, or go back to them with a different pitch angle if the first one didn't work. And it's just about, if you have something new, if you have a collaboration, they might be interested in hearing about it. So get back in touch with them. And if they do respond and they do call you in, they do call in an image from you, or, they say, actually, we'd like to run this, don't hound them. Don't kind of be like, when's this coming out? It hasn't come out yet. Again, it's never guaranteed, and it's a two-way relationship. So just give it time. And if it doesn't go into print or it doesn't go online, it doesn't get published, next time you have something new, go back to them again, say, hey, I know that like I didn't make the cut last time, but I've got this. I thought you might like it based on like the image you called in last time. You can help them to do their jobs. And the last thing I'll say on this is the press move around, as I said, so often, and even more in the last few years. So there are constant new opportunities. There are constant new kind of reasons to be going to new people when they're writing features. And the volume of content they are producing online is unbelievable. The features that are being kind of churned out online. So if you can only focus on one area of press, if you feel maybe overwhelmed by PR, online is by far the best place to concentrate your efforts.
Okay, interesting. Cool. So would you say it's kind of a numbers game in the end? Like not number of times you hound the one journalist, but number of, if you put it, like you said, was it 5 a week, 5 pitches a week? So if you keep that steady process up of 5 a week, then chances are you'll land something.
Yeah,
like
exactly. And it might get
in the not too distant future.
Yeah. And something you pitched in 6 months ago might get a call in 6 months later. So it's worth just keeping it going, keeping on top of it. And sometimes you might want to try something easier that you know you might get included on. So you don't always have to go for the national titles, go niche, go smaller.
That's so interesting. That's such an insight about the inbox. So, we're all kind of sitting here thinking, I've written this thing, they're reading every word, they're hanging off my every word, and then they've rejected me or whatever it is. But it's not the case. They're using their inbox like a depository of content. They're probably not reading every email by any stretch. They might scan it, but they might not even read it. But they're just letting it all gather up, and then they're using it as a way to search for ideas. That's really interesting insight. Okay, so brands can very much run their PR in-house when they're in the early stages. What about later on? Like, what are the pros and cons of an agency, and what advice would you give to brands considering working with an agency, and how can it benefit them versus continuing to do PR in-house?
Oh, it's a really interesting one. So I ran an agency for nearly 10 years, and it was really interesting, the brands that really kind of made the most of their retainer, the ones that had constant new releases of product, constant stories to talk about, constant collaborations. We're doing events, we're running ads, we're doing kind of really great organic marketing, email marketing. They had a full 360 strategy, influencers. They were the brands that, because retainers start at £2,000 a month for the PR agency minimum. You're probably looking at about £4,000 or £5,000 for a very basic kind of press retainer. And to see that return, firstly, it's going to take 6 months at least, but you also need to have everything else around it happening. So don't just think, oh yeah, I could pay a PR agency and that's going to solve my problems, because that is not how PR works. You need that marketing to support that PR. I would say when you've kind of got enough to talk about your turning product, or you've really established a name for yourself, then it would be the time to think about outsourcing it. The downside of that is a PR agency takes a lot longer to turn things around. So what I'm seeing now is larger brands doing their PR in-house, and they are getting someone like the marketing exec, or even I've even seen like sales teams kind of taking on the role of PR and building those relationships themselves with the press, so the press come directly to the brand. And the reason that's so cost efficient is because, firstly, it fills someone's time. So if you're paying a marketing exec, and they need to do a couple of hours of PR every week, it makes sense. But secondly, they can turn things around really, really quickly. So if you launch a product and you want to talk about it to the press, you've got everything there. You don't need to send over images. You don't need to send over release details. You don't need to send over this. But then the agency need to get back in touch with you to be like, oh, that just got featured, but now it's sold out. And that two-way dialogue with an agency costs time and money. And you really do need someone in-house at your brand to manage that relationship with an agency, to make sure they're getting all the imagery, to make sure they know when things are sold out, to make sure that they have all the stories and angles that they need, that they get new headshots of the founder. Otherwise, it becomes a very inefficient kind of use of time and money. So yeah, we're seeing more and more brands taking it in-house and getting someone like the marketing team to do the PR.
Interesting. Yeah, there's so many parallels with a paid media agency as well. Like we get the best results for clients that are the most knowledgeable, the most engaged, that are really true partners with us, versus brands that think, oh, we'll just give that to them and we'll just forget about it, because we're really an extension of their marketing department. But if they're not kind of working with us, then we can't do all the exciting things that we want to be doing. And there's certainly, I think, a critical mass in terms of the size of the marketing team and the size of the business before an agency can really come into their own and make the fee worth the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I'm a firm believer as well that brands should do their media buying in-house at least for a time before they go with an agency, so that they really understand it. Because if you understand something really well, then when you work with an agency, you're able to kind of come at it from that angle of like knowledge and understanding what their challenges are as well, and be able to help them more. Yeah. Cool. So they would have a marketing person potentially. So would you say a bigger brand is still doing the same amount of pitches per week, like 5 per week, or would they kind of up the quantity?
So a bigger brand, if they've got manpower, obviously could do a lot more. Like at the agency, we were probably doing between 20 and 30 pitches per week per client. So I would say if you are a slightly bigger brand and you've got someone doing the PR on your behalf, you don't just want to think about traditional media. So you would be thinking about podcasts, you'd be thinking about speaking opportunities, you'd be thinking about raising the profile of your founder, you know, industry publications, trade publications, B2B, awards potentially. So really, I think with a slightly larger business, it's all about that key person of influence within that business, being an expert in their field. So then posting on LinkedIn, then putting out blog content, so that when the industry are looking for an expert, for example, in the fashion accessory space, this person sticks out like a sore thumb. You know, they are everywhere. They speak on every panel that's kind of any influence. They have the right content. They have the right thing on their LinkedIn. So I think you'd be doing a bit of both. If kind of you have a bigger team, you'd be doing the traditional media for the product and the brand story, but then you'd also be raising that founder or whoever it is, their profile as well. And you can do other team members as well. It doesn't have to just be the founder. It can be, you know, head of the marketing department. And Truva did this really, really well. You know, Lucy Ward, who was the creative director of Truva, she always had great press. She wasn't the founder, but she was the creative director, and she had some lovely press. So yeah, it could be other key people within the business as well, you know, raising their profile too.
Yeah. And what about international? So we work in the agency, we work with quite a few British headquartered brands that are very much pushing into the US because the market is much bigger. It's English speaking. With e-com, you know, it's just a matter of moving your logistics and then you can kind of start selling straight away. How would you advise brands to go about getting press in places like the US or Canada if they're not from there?
So start with product, definitely, because when kind of you're entering a market that don't know you yet, you have to have the it product, if you like. If you're going for like something that's maybe quite fashionable, I would start with the big cities. So kind of the New York, the San Francisco, like the big places. So you want to start with like lead with your product, and once you kind of get enough product placement, people will start to recognize you. And I think if you are British, that's when kind of you play the international card, you play the British card. They love to feature brands from other countries, just like here. We love to see the next brand from the US or the next brand from Scandinavia. Like, we really do want to see people from other countries, and it's exactly the same in other markets. So start with product placement, and once you've got enough kind of the ball rolling with that, then it's worth kind of getting some interview kind of slots and press that way. It's a huge market. It's absolutely massive. So again, if I was to give kind of brands one focus, it would be online, because online lives forever, and it's directing those people straight to your US site if you have one. So yeah, I would definitely focus on online as much as you can.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and so it would be the same thing though. You source the contacts, you see what kind of journalists that are writing similar sorts of like product roundups or features about founders, contact them directly, pitch the story, but maybe with that kind of international angle we've woven in. And so there's no particular difference that you'd want to highlight between like how a US journalist kind of accepts or views pitches, or is there anything kind of nuanced about that the US in particular?
It's exactly the same. I'd just say you could really use kind of social media to your advantage here. So there's a huge presence of US journalists on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and especially if you're kind of a visual brand, you know, connect with them through social media. It's a much kind of smaller market over here, but yeah, connect with those people kind of as much as you can to get your name out there. The other thing I'd say is if you've got stockists in the US, that really, really helps. So if you are stocked by kind of a well-known name in the US, drop that into your pitch emails. It does really help.
Amazing. Cool. So what else is going on in the industry trend-wise? Like you mentioned the kind of pandemic focus on independent businesses and that continuing kind of, we both think that will continue into the recession. Hopefully it doesn't become a bad recession, but we're all just hoping for the best. But what else do you see kind of in the industry as big trends that people should think about for when they're thinking about PR for their product?
Well, I mentioned online. So just a stat, 70% of press lives online. And your opportunities are massively increased because they produce more content and it happens much quicker. Less people get cut, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, don't even get me started on the benefits, SEO, direct link into your website. Yeah, all very beneficial. So online, definitely. I am seeing more and more kind of on the other side rather than like kind of press trends, but more kind of ways in how brands are using their press. So it used to be that you'd be featured in a magazine, I don't know, 10 years ago, and your landline would ring of your office and people would place orders because they saw you in the Telegraph or Country Living or wherever it was. It is 100% not like that anymore. You get featured, someone follows you on Instagram, and it's even more kind of over the last few years. It is an absolute visibility exercise. So we know that touch points are increasing. You need more and more touch points now for someone to even not even purchase with you, but become aware of you. So it's very much about touch points and then using your marketing to drive people through those sales funnel. So in terms of using that marketing, it's been really interesting how more and more brands are combining their marketing with their PR. So they'll be featured in the Telegraph and it'll kind of be a best beauty brands to have on your radar 2023, for example. And they'll use that in their ads. They'll use it on their website. They'll use it in their email marketing. And then you'll land on the website and you'll see another quote from another publication. And it's just it's so great to see so many brands doing it really, really well. Because I think about 2 years ago, people kind of forgot that was the point of PR, or maybe didn't realize that was the point of PR. So it's so good to see people using it time and time and time again. So make sure you're using, press quotes, logos, share your coverage, find interesting ways to do it. I love it when I receive an email marketing and it says, see what the press have loved this week. It's not like, oh, we were in the Telegraph. It's like, see what the press are loving this week or see what the press are loving this month. It's just a really great way to use your PR to sell. So yes, I think
I would totally echo that. So I would just chime in there from the paid media angle that yes, so using the quotes in the ads, using the logos in the ads, the landing page, all of that. But also what's really cool is if you gain a follower through someone seeing you in, an article, that follower we can then retarget with an ad. So that's what's brilliant about paid advertising is it can augment what you're doing with your earned media or the followers that you're gaining, because those people are being warmed up by your organic social. They're being warmed up by this press article, and now they're seeing your ad right at the point in time when they're shopping for, they're in the market to shop because Facebook knows when they are. So I think the synergies between them are all so fantastic. And I would say as well, email marketing, that's another great place to use it. And also recycle, if you got some great press, 3 months ago, people might not have read that email that you sent out 3 months ago talking about it. Use it again with just a slightly different angle. So it's about working and weaving them all together, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's so good to see. When I see brands doing it, I get really excited. I'm like, yes, that was done really well. And now I want to buy your face scrub because the Telegraph has told me that it's the best one out there. And I think
it's social proof.
It's social proof. It is social proof, and it's so powerful. And then the other type of press that's becoming more, it's always been really, really important, but it's becoming more and more and more important is those articles where people first find you. So it might be, I was looking for a mattress topper the other day, for example. So I searched best mattress topper and up came articles from the Evening Standard, the Telegraph, the Times, the Guardian on the first page of Google. And all of these articles have done a roundup of the top 15 mattress toppers. And it is the same for every single product. If you are ever looking for something, you will probably search, best ethical swimwear brand or best vegan skincare, and up will come 2 pages of press before you even get to a brand. So the brands that are really savvy, the brands that are really thinking about kind of consumer spending decreasing and how people are going to be shopping, are pitching into these articles, and like they're like a dog with a bone. They're not kind of letting up and making sure that the press that write these articles know they exist, because it's really, really crucial that if you want people to shop with you when they're in that mindset, that you are in these articles. So that's the other kind of trend that I've been seeing, kind of more and more and more of these shopping articles.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I interviewed a SEO guy on my podcast a little while ago, Sam from Blink SEO. It's a couple of episodes back if anyone wants to jump in and listen. But he talked about product roundups as being a key part of an SEO strategy and making sure that you have that as part of your strategy. So do you want to talk us through? So if the because that content those newspapers are producing, or those magazines, that's their kind of evergreen bread and butter SEO content, isn't it? They've done it for SEO purposes. How would you go about getting yourself on would you try and get yourself on an article that already exists? Or is it about just trying to be there at the right time when they're compiling a new one?
So this is a really, really good question. So when I looked for that mattress topper, what I noticed is it was the 3rd day of 2023. And the one that I found had been updated from 2022. And that they'd updated kind of the year for 2023. So it ranked top of Google. So they do sometimes update them. If it's kind of a product that, you know, it's not the most trend driven, like a mattress topper, they probably will just update the article with a kind of a few new suggestions. They'll check everything is still the same price, and then they'll republish that article potentially in a new year, potentially later down the line. If it's something that's quite trend led, for example, handbags, underwear, fashion, beauty, lifestyle, homeware, anything like that, they will create a completely new article. The key to getting into them is to be on their radar. So the first thing is always make sure kind of you're pitching in every 6 to 12 weeks. As I said, make sure you've got the most relevant contact. It's not an old contact, because these people do move around. Make sure you're using those keywords, because that's what they're going to search. They might do it once a year, for example, your topic, and you never know when they're going to do it, because topics changed all the time. You know, they might plan to do handbags, but then we go into a lockdown. So all of a sudden, I don't know, loungewear becomes really relevant. So they do kind of change kind of their content plans a lot. So you never know when they're going to do it. So it's really important that you've used their keywords, you're in their inbox, and also go that extra mile with them. You know, connect with them on LinkedIn, connect with them on Instagram if they are active on Instagram. Make yourself kind of as known as possible. If it's something that needs to be tried and tested, food, drink, beauty, body care, anything like that, it's really worth getting samples to them. So maybe it's something you want to ask first. You know, I'm going to send you this sample, but let me know if you'd like a different flavor or a different color. They're really influential people, and you want to get your product into their hands if it's something that needs to be tried and tested. For example, we work with an underwear brand for many, many years, and they're actually a PR Dispatch member now, and they do underwear that fits kind of all different sizes of women, and bust size in particular. So we really had to get this underwear to the editors so they could try it. And we did, and they tried it, and they put them as, I think it was Indie's Best Buy. So that was fantastic in the Independent. So yeah, it's really worth kind of building that relationship with them, getting in touch with them, sending them something, or asking them if they'd like to try something.
How do you think Chat GPT plays into PR, but also how do you think it's going to affect the journalism industry?
So it's really interesting. So firstly, I was concerned that people would be able to find press contacts through it. And you can, but it still take quite a while. Lots of people don't put those details out publicly. So if you think that you can get it through there, it's rare that actually you'll get hold of the right person. It's going to be really interesting for press releases. So a really strong press release has facts, figures, data. So yeah, if you can pull facts, figures, data, you know, through there from the internet, you could write a much stronger press release. I would never recommend writing a whole press release with it, because they'll see straight through it. But you know, if you kind of are contextualizing the problem that you solve, how many plastic bottles end up in the sea every single year, for example, it could write that whole paragraph for you. So it'd be really interesting for that. On the kind of other side, you know, people are like, journalists are going to lose their jobs. We are going to like hit a phase where we have got robots writing articles. I think that as a product-based business, we're in quite a strong position. Well, the press that kind of cover our sector are in quite a strong position because you can't get them to write interview pieces, for example. And if kind of everyone listening to this runs kind of lifestyle businesses or independent lifestyle businesses, that whole space is very personal. If you're doing an interview piece with a magazine, someone has to send over the questions, you have to get back to them. So it would be really interesting to see what it does to the lifestyle sector, because I can't ever see kind of a situation where product pages are being compiled by anyone apart from an editor. They need to be edited. That's the whole beauty of press. So hopefully kind of in the product space, we're safe. But if I was in the mainstream journalist space, and I was a journalist in the mainstream space, I think I'd be quite worried. But I would love to know if anyone has listened to this and kind of has a press release to write, can you pull some really interesting facts and figures and contextualize the problem that you solve really, really well using it?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That's how we've been using AI for a few years now in the agency, just to help us work faster and smarter. So on the content generation side, we've always used it to help us come up with angles for ads. And then our copywriter will, he uses it. It's just to augment and speed him up and give him new ideas, just give him a new way of, it's kind of like having an assistant, I guess, to help him get started with stuff. So I think applying that approach to press releases is great, and it, anything it can do to kind of augment what you're doing and make you more efficient is awesome. Yeah, I guess I'm just fascinated to see, at the moment, you're right, there's a real difference between product and lifestyle PR versus like the news industry, because the news industry, most of the content we read is repurposed. Like one outfit will put the news out and then all the other outfits will just copy it, and there's journalists whose job it is just to repurpose the news, right? Those jobs will be gone.
Yeah.
But then what do we as consumers of the press, like why would we even go to the press then? Why don't we just go to Chat GPT to ask for our news? So I guess that's the biggest shift that will be really interesting, is like what role will the media even play in the future? Before we wrap up, it would be really good. I think our listeners would really benefit from hearing, I will put this in the show notes, but from hearing about your membership and how it works, because I think it's actually really unique in our industry. It's the best kept secret and the best hack for getting your own PR without all of the effort. So you want to talk us through, and by the way, we're not affiliates or anything. I just think this is a great service and more brands need to hear about it.
Oh, thanks, Jessie. Yeah, so PR Dispatch helps product-based businesses to do their PR in-house. We have a range of members from kind of one-man band or one female band, kind of founders, to teams where, as I said, the marketing exec might be doing the PR in-house. We give our members access to a press database that they can filter and search to find relevant press contacts for their space sector or any angles they might have, for example, sustainable, ethical, female founded. And then they work their way through and pitch to the press. We also do something called press and journal requests. So when the press are looking for something at that particular, and then we have all the support that goes with it. So weekly support calls, a community group, and pitch templates and learning around how the press works, because what I want our members to do is pitch to the press in the right way and build the right relationships and not kind of anger the press so they don't work with them again. So yeah, we help over 350 product-based businesses, and prices start, it depends when this is going out, but prices start from £54 a month, and they will be increasing soon. So yeah, if anyone wants to come and have a look, we do a tour kind of every few weeks, so go and have a look.
Amazing. Well, I'll put all the details in the show notes. And where's the best place to follow you and get updates and hear from you more?
So yes, I am on Instagram at PR Dispatch, DISPATCH. And if you're looking for kind of a helpful PR calendar, you can sign up to our newsletter list, and every month we'll send you a PR calendar for the next 2 months with key dates and what the press are working on for free.
Amazing. Wow, that sounds awesome. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us here on the E-Commerce Impact Podcast. If I can ask you one favour, can you please make sure you subscribe? And if you can, leave us a review. It helps us have a much bigger impact with what we're trying to do here at the E-Commerce Impact Podcast. Now, if you're ready to take your e-com store to the next level, then go to www.ecommerceimpactpodcast.com and click on the button to book a strategy call with me or my team. We offer a free order of your advertising and a custom growth plan, so you really have nothing to lose by getting in touch and jumping on a call with us. See you soon, and watch out for the next episode in 2 weeks' time.